they've been talking about this since 2019. Okay, and it's gaining traction now, largely because a lot of INEC facilities in recent times across the nation, especially in the southeast of the nation, have been subject of attacks, violent attacks, arson, are taking place in INEC facilities. And I think that is sufficient to be classified as an emergency.
Yes. Now the INEC facility, just like you've said, this is not just happening now. In 2015, we all knew what happened then. It almost marred the election then. Looking at the facilities, being the target of all this, I call them hoodlums, because you can't really associate them with any party anyway. What do you think attracted this, especially the recent attack?
Well, they are criminal by the fact that the law classifies the conduct they engage in as criminal. But when you look deeper, you will discover they are linked to certain agitations, chiefly agitations that have to do with self-determination by certain people groups in Nigeria, such as the Igbos, the Yoruba, to much lesser extent the Arewa, which is up north. What you have had over time are people groups like the Yoruba Nation agitators, the indigenous people of Biafra, and Masob agitators who are agitating for Biafra, the creation of a separate country for them in the southeast. Also the creation of a separate country out of Nigeria for the Yorubas, okay, who are presently in Nigeria. You will discover these are the people over time who have been attacking INEC facilities. You also, in between, have real criminals who took advantage of the conduct, illegal criminal conduct of these agitators I previously spoke about, to also engage, apparently for something to eat, in destroying INEC facilities. You would remember that in months past now, across the nation, correctional facilities had been subject of attacks
as well
by criminal gangs and, maybe some of these agitators. And again, they released fellows kept in correctional facility.
And up till this moment.
Until date, as the country in which we live in. The Minister for Internal Affairs still signs documents as Minister for Internal Affairs, and they cannot tell us how well they are brought back in to the correctional facilities folks who were illegally set free from those facilities by their compatriots in crime. These guys are about. They are loafing. They are there. What they do for a living is crime. Okay? And it's not out of place to imagine that they will be available as mercenaries for these agitators, for people, for emancipation, self-determination that we're talking about. Okay? In any event, if they bomb INEC facilities and they are paid to do it, it's just like an assignment in the day for them.
So don't you think that Nigeria is in trouble?
Well, yes, that's why I said it looks like an emergency. It would appear to be an emergency. And you see, Section 24(2) of the Electoral Act 2022 that governs the elections scheduled for this year, the general elections, says that where INEC would say that there's an emergency during the conduct of a scheduled election, it could postpone that election when it appears cogent and verifiable. Those are the two major words that that section uses, that there is indeed an emergency. And then it talks about in an area, and it talks about areas, okay? All through the Electoral Act 2022, you wouldn't see, I have scoured through, where the Electoral Act says in Nigeria. It uses the words areas and areas. So that's the best it gives us. And using the principle of interpretation of statute, you would want to say that talking about Nigeria, when you talk about an area, it's talking about Nigeria. Okay. Areas talking about sections of the country. So if these emergencies are endemic, very well found throughout the country, by that section of the Electoral Act 2022, which governs the conduct of elections for 2023, INEC indeed is empowered to postpone the elections for clear reasons. You can't have elections when there's an emergency, when the lives of INEC staff will be put at risk, when the lives of voters who intend to exercise their franchise will be put at risk. Imagine putting an election on Monday in the southeast for now, when even Obi himself tactically, did not have his campaign on a Monday,
All right, let's talk about, you just mentioned the high-neck staffs.
Yeah.
But the one that concerns Nigeria the most is the ad hoc staff, all this NYSC, that will be involved in the election. You all remember what happened in Anambra when most of these NYSC guys left their job. Don't you think this will happen with what we are seeing now? Don't you think it will happen in the general election as well?
Well, INEC has said it wouldn't be using academics this time around. It would deploy its staff.
But definitely they're still going to use the youth cover.
Very well, they may not cover the ground. So I expect one way or the other they may still need to use ad hoc staff. Okay, looking at the old government, that's one reason really why Section 24(2) of the Electoral Act 2022 says when INEC sees that there is an emergency, okay, in the period that is scheduled for an election, it would postpone that. So I expect it wants to avoid harm coming the way of its ad hoc staff, NYSC members, core members, and whatnot.
Don't you think that INEC raising this alarm? Don't you think it's too early?
Too early?
Because this is January, February.
I would, my personal opinion,
probably
say
too
it's too late in the day to be saying that, because you see, the Electoral Act says INEC ought to give 360 days notice before the conduct of a scheduled election. Okay, so where does it go now? Okay,
just on 40.
Some few days away from the elections. Okay, so for me, it's not too late in the day. It's rather it's not too early. It's rather too late in the day. It would appear so. In any event, from 2019, INEC had spoken about these things. Okay, but they were not as vociferous. They were not as loud as they are now about the matter, that there could be emergency during the elections in 2023.
All right, looking at what INEC is saying, whether they're going to postpone because of security threats, the funds being allocated to INEC, if they postpone it, are they going to ask for more funds, or are they just going to use what is on ground to do the election? Because these are some of the questions Nigerians are asking.
Yes, you know, the real reason why you find me laughing at this thing is the Electoral Act specifies that 1 year to the conduct of scheduled election, all the funds needed would have been provided by the federal government and warehoused. Okay, so you discover where you have this postponement thing coming in, you know, and funds already provided are being spent. Are you going to come about another 365 days to provide the funds? But from what I gather, okay, the beavers machines are in, fully supplied, all the equipment are there. I expect the sensitive materials are also in place, except they would have issues with annual dates, like the elections for 2023. If they postpone it to 2024, they may then have to reprint one or two things, reconfigure one or two machines. Other than that, I don't think there is much problem about that.
Yeah, you just talk about beavers now, and a lot of people are saying that maybe because of this new invention of INEC, talking about these beavers, has caused all this insecurity, especially around INEC, that a lot of politicians are really worried about this INEC, looking at what transpired in Ekiti and Osun states.
Yeah, well, the worry unconscionable politicians are presently is beyond beavers. Okay, they have to worry about the cash, availability of the cash you would imagine they intended to deploy. Okay, during the elections. But looking at beavers specifically speaking, I would expect that INEC has beavers securely kept. Okay, you will discover all through the arson events, episodes committed on INEC facilities in the country. I have not read once where INEC said, "Oh, this time we have been so badly hit, we doubt that we can conduct the elections." This arson has affected our ability to conduct it. What you'll always hear INEC say, what I have always heard INEC say through all this in the last few months, okay, is that they would say, "Oh, yes, we had arson, but our sensitive materials and our equipment records are properly kept. They are not affected." Okay, so when INEC is talking about postponement of the election, it's not talking about its hardware. Okay, it's talking about the safety of the lives of both the electorate and the INEC core staff and the ad hoc members. Okay, because you see, section 24(2) of the Electoral Act 22 uses the word breach of the peace. Okay, so where there will be a breach of the peace during the conduct of any election, it stands to reason that the duty INEC has, imperative duty INEC has, is to postpone such election. But the evidence, the reason to do so, must be cogent and verifiable. So it remains to now be said, Nigeria has gone through in the last few months, years, talking about insecurity weeks. You would also know, as a journalist, that a few days back, in a place where that was not expected in Warri vicinity, kidnappers went into a train station, okay, and herded citizens out of the train station to nowhere, kidnapped, okay. this and that other event.
And they're asking for 20 million per person now.
Yes, 620 million, you know.
Oh.
Yes, you know, how they are going to get that with the CBN regulations now remains to be seen. Okay, although some people say folks are now asking to be paid in Bitcoin, you know, you can hardly trace Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Oh yes.
You know.
All right, you talked about peace. You could recall in September 29, 2022 to be precise, all these political parties signed a peace accord. But with what we are seeing at the moment, does it justify the peace accord that they've signed?
Well, that's where you are saying that political parties are responsible for the seeming emergency in decline. Okay, that's where you are saying so. But for me, it would not appear.
Because we're in a political circle at the moment, so it should revolve around them, don't you think?
Well, that's a supposition that we would need some boy to anchor it on, okay, you know, because it would appear that it's these agitators that are largely responsible for that. And then you may want to talk about the bandits also, okay, you know. But what we will discover is that these bandits are really about what to eat. I do not justify banditry, okay. They are really about what to eat. They are not attacking the holding of an election. It is these agitators for self-determination that are saying pointedly, no, we don't want an election. What we want is a referendum to determine whether or not we want to remain in
Nigeria,
like Chief Obafemi once said, the geographical expression known as Nigeria. They are the ones pointedly saying there will be no elections. Simon Ekpa, the guy on the internet who lives in Finland, okay, that is the gravamen of his broadcasts, okay, and it is commonly said around here as well by Apple people who are sympathetic to cause of IPOP. They say it, you know, Yoruba nationalists are saying it. Few days back at Ojota, there was a fracas involving the Yoruba nationalists and the police, in which one or two people lost their lives. It's all about we want a Yoruba nation, not an election.
All right, the Minister of Information and Culture yesterday came out, Alhaji Lai Muhammad came out that we'll still hold the 2023 election. But with what we are saying, are you confident about the statement that we're going to hold it? Because INEC is in the center point, and they're telling Nigerians that with what we are seeing, with the destruction of most of our offices, there is likelihood that we will hold this election. But the information minister came out yesterday and said the election will hold.
Well, one thing it shows you straight away is a lack of coordination, you know, in the executive realm. You have INEC that is a body, it's independent. I will agree with you.
Oh, yeah.
But it has one or two links with the executive arm of government saying this is what we have on ground. There is an emergency. It will appear we may not be able to conduct the elections 2023. Now you have the mouthpiece of the executive of the government, Chief Lai Mohammed, now saying, oh, the elections would go on. It would appear to be lack of coordination. But one could also say that in saying so, Chief Lai Mohammed is carrying out his brief as the Federal Minister of Information. Okay. Now, in doing so, you want to look at the person who is saying so. What would his antecedents in dishing out information? What is it like? Okay. Before now, when he says to us, A is located at Ojaba, and B presently is at Abere, and C is at Agubelewu. Did we find it exactly that way? If that was not the case, previous to now, it only stands to reason that you would want to take what he's saying with a pinch of salt. Okay? And it's all there in black and white, what his antecedents are before now. Has it been like a Chukwumerije? Has it been like Ofonagoro? You know?
The Mbati.
And on and on like that. Who has it been like? Okay? Has it been like Goebbels? You know? The chief spokesman of the Third Reich, when Hitler was doing his thing. Okay? You know? So those are the things that would, the parameters within which we want to come to conclusion whether or not indeed we can take his word to the bank. But the people know that if you live in the southeast of this country, no matter what an information minister tells you, you'll be taking a risk, a very great risk, to leave your home on a Monday and say you want to open shop to your clients. You know, you'll be taking a risk if on a Monday you go to a motor park. Presently, as we speak, it's very viable, it's cogent. You know, to say you go to a motor park in the southeast of this country and you want to travel from one point to another. You will be taking a very serious risk. Okay? You know, now, all those things that we know, can you place it side by side with what Ibrahim Mohammed is saying and say, oh, indeed, I'm ready to take my PVC and go out to vote on a Monday living in the southeast? You know, those are the things you should be looking at.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, according to the Independent National Electoral Commission, they said that over 41 attacks on their offices in 14 states. And you just mentioned Southeast. And most of these states that is highly affected from that side, the Southeast, the Imo, the Abia, the Enugu, the Ebonyi, and even Anambra. Now, let's look at the 2023 election that is coming very soon. The waterways. How secure is our waterways for people out there to do the election?
Well, over time, give it like 5-6 years back, our waterways were much more insecure than they are now. I don't know what the Vice President Osbc went to do in the creeks. I don't know what he told them, but there was this time when the president traveled on the health tourism stuff, and he transmitted power to the vice president. Okay, I remember very well that one of the things that the vice president did was he entered into the creeks. I don't know what he told them, but between then and now, there has been a very great reduction, okay, in insecurity in the creeks, in our waterways. Okay, it is not heard too often as it used to be that, you know, pipes were broken into, were blown up by these agitators. Okay, so I would imagine that our waterways are relatively safe now, save for those stealing our crude oil. Okay, they are well armed. Okay, you know, save for that. Our waterways, when we talk about these election issues, people still move around. Take it. The larger number of agitation for self-determination is found in the southeastern states. Okay, and these coastlines you are talking about, they've got some of it also, but not that much. You know, the southeast is largely landlocked. Okay, you know, so the people you will find in the coastal areas of Nigeria are the Izons, the Ijos. Okay, one time or the other, since the days of Boro, Adaka Boro, they've been talking about self-determination, but they are not as virulent about it as they used to be presently. Okay, and I have not read them saying as much as the IPOB will say that there will be no election in 2023. It's the IPOB and the Yoruba nationalist people saying that more stridently than you would have the Arewa and the zones at the coastline. Says so one could then surmise that the coastlines, the waterways, are relatively safe.
All right, if you're just joining us, you've not missed much. This is Nations Today on Osbc TV, and we are escorting the INEC and its fear on security issues in Nigeria. We want to know why INEC is saying that with what is happening at the moment, they might not have the election, and we're looking at how possible that will be, and how we can make sure that we have the election in February, and we know who our president will be, and other the National Assembly as well. And my guest has been a barrister of law, Femi Anyodoko. We've been doing it together. All right, let's talk about the Northeast.
Yeah.
That's another place entirely.
Oh yeah, there was election day in 2015, 2016, and the Afenifere are using that to say that's one reason why INEC should not have elections. Yes, I'm with you.
So how is it? How do you see election in that part of the country?
Well, it is a fact of history that in spite of the challenge of insecurity in the Northeast, elections held there in 2015. You know, and insecurity in the Northeast at that time was tuned up much more than we hear of it now. Okay, you know, it's much more under control now than it was then. If at that time INEC could conduct elections there, for the love of me, why couldn't INEC do same this time out? For me, privately speaking, you know, from what I gather from the news media and other humans and illinked avenues, my answer would be elections for now are doable in the northeast of this country. They're doable, especially when they have a stake. Atiku is from the northeast of this country and is contesting to be president. You know,
and we want to let that side of the country down and make it a place for people to start talking about.
The truth really is, my fellow citizen who is a Megad, who is a Merua, you know, who shines the shoe, is my fellow citizen. You know, a lot of them, many more of them have their PVCs ready, always with them. Whereas I can tell you that a lot who are my own colleagues, what I traded, law, you know, academics, graduates, those shouting they are obedient, a lot more of them don't have PVC. You know. So you will discover that when the election time comes, if you depend on the Merua, it's gone. They have their plans in place to go back home to vote, especially since AA is in this business this time out, and it's from that place.
All right, what does the law say about what INEC really told us a couple of weeks ago, that those that registered underage pupils, that the parents will be liable if they go out on the election day to vote? Is it that punishable for parents under the law?
Yes, you see, the Electoral Act 2022 expanded the frontier of electoral offences. Before then, we had electoral offences, but the government hardly did anything to prosecute electoral offenders. But this time out, INEC appears to be more set to do that. They have chalked up a lot of prosecutions and convictions of INEC staff previously who were involved in electoral offences. Okay, it has become an electoral offence to sell your PVC or to offer it to someone else for some consideration. Okay, it also has become an electoral offense for you to buy it. Okay, so if you have underage folks, they don't keep their PVC themselves. They are still they are not majors, they are minors. So you would imagine that they are controlled by their parents. So if a parent is involved in selling the PVC of one of his children or a ward under his care, he goes into the slammers for it. Okay, it's become an electoral offense. Okay, and INEC is also saying they will be able to see and then arrest underage, voters. But you see, I have a little reservation about that. These things have been going on for
only God knows.
Like long time immemorial.
But even my concern is it not INEC that is registering these underage people? What does the law say about INEC officials registering these young lads?
It's an electoral offense. Okay, I mean, if you are not at the age of a major, you cannot be registered to. And we have seen a lot of these cards on the internet with the faces of those who have registered to. But what one would expect is that INEC should trawl its database of PVCs and then begin to, expunge or watch list or put on some serious observation such PVC cards. So where they are used, of course, they take countermeasures. I hope INEC this time out will do something about it, because it's been ongoing for a long time, verifiable. That in places in Nigeria contiguous to Niger Republic, Chad, you have a lot of underage voting that goes on there, and then you have folks who are Mauritanians, folks who are Nigerians, folks who are Chadians.
How are we going to dictate those ones?
Who come from, maybe by train that's not ready yet, from Maradi, to come to vote here, But if they are PVC and they are majors, they are old enough to vote.
And they can speak Hausa.
And they are, yes, and there's an address, so where they are, and they are then falls within the ward where they are voting, they are good to go. Those are part of the problems we still have with politics and voting in Nigeria. But I think going forward, we should be able to. I expect political parties to be x-raying that, presently. Okay, I expect parties like APC, for instance, to be x-raying that seriously, knowing that the contender from PDP comes from that area. Okay, so I expect them to be ready to be x-raying it seriously, so that they can cut down whatever gain, illegal gain, supposedly the other contender who hails from that avenue could garner.
Yeah, you just mentioned political parties now. The business of 2023 election, it's a collective effort. And it's an effort from each and every one of us. What do you think the political party could do, or the political parties could do, to complement the effort of INEC to make sure that this election that is coming in February is free, fair, and credible?
Thank you very much. They did a lot less, both INEC and the political parties, than they did at the last election diet. Voter education is critical. I live in Nigeria, I live in Osbc, I get around, okay? We need more voter education than we presently have. INEC can do much better presently in that respect. I also expect the political parties, rather than just saying, vote for my candidate, vote for my candidate, I expect the political parties to be educating the voters, okay, about where their word is. Don't sell your votes. Ensure you put the thumb properly where it should be, so your ballot does not become invalidated, because the ballot is always better than the bullet. We expect to see more of that. Maybe they are waiting to a few weeks to the election, but again, too late. Why don't we start talking about that much more now. Some non-governmental organizations funded by offshore bodies, are doing a lot about that. Okay, but they are reaching folks who go to the internet much more than folks who don't use the internet. Okay, they need to begin to get around the neighborhood. Okay, and talk to Iyalojas, Babalojas, talk to the folks at Idisheke, the folks who sell at Igbono. Approach them like you want to buy tomato. Strike up a conversation about the election and just tell them we want you to make sure you vote this, put your ballot properly, this and that. Don't take money from anybody. They need to deploy a large army to help and get that done. They can reach out to people through landlords associations, reach out to people through churches, through mosques, through ojubos, wherever people go to call on who they believe is God. They can do a lot more in that respect.
I want to ask you this: Are you not worried about the strength of our security apparatus in this country, especially when the election is on? Do you think that the security apparatus that we have at the moment can match the general election that?
Thank you very much. Just this morning, the NSCDC was on radio saying, "Oh, folks, listen to us. One of our duties under the statute that set us up is to ensure that election is, conducted free and fair in an atmosphere of safety and all that stuff." How many are they? Okay, you will say that they are in all the 774 local governments. Okay, maybe 1% or so, but we need more than that. I am aware that presently they are trying to recruit, and what they are recruiting are not folks who are graduates and meant for higher rank officers. They are trying to recruit foot soldiers. But how well can you bring them in, train them now, and deploy them
before the election?
One of the good things, in my personal view, that Major General Babangida tried to do is to have what this thing we call National Guard. We still need the National Guard. The NSCDC, they are not doing too badly, okay, and they are on ground, okay, all around. Where I live, I know they are doing a good job, okay, but we need a National Guard. Look at what is happening in the forests, where the kidnappers take their victims to, okay, nobody is in there enforcing security. You have forest guards in some forest reserves. They don't carry no gun that can stand up to the AK-47 or 49 that those kidnappers carry. If we had the National Guard in place, okay, they will be properly armed. Their job will be inside those forests. You can always find them in there. NSCDC would also be busy, but NSCDC, their job really, they don't go in deep in there.
They go into the creeks.
They don't go too much, So I think as it is now, they may deploy soldiers, but people are getting out of the army now, and the army is screaming at them, you can't get out until your time is up. Nobody wants to serve in the army. So I think the government, the federal government, I believe the federal government needs to do something quickly, to multiply the number of security agents it can put out there, especially when it is not so clear that the battle is on so many fronts. You've got bandits, you've got kidnappers to contend with, you've got agitators for self-determination to contend with, and they are saying pointedly, we don't want, and we will do everything we can to ensure we do not have an election. Now, in the face of all that, one would expect that the federal government will be ramping up on providing more security. See, community policing that we had failed to do over the years, it's gaping, the hole is gaping hole, okay? Because if we had done community policing, you will discover that the typical policeman, not as it is now, the typical policeman will know what's happening almost everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a policeman whose father and mother live in the same community where he is. Okay,
and they will know everybody.
They know who the other person is. We are not as large as America. America does a lot of that. Oh, yes. They have the sheriff. The local sheriff who is there. He knows everybody in the neighborhood. Oh, yeah. The place where he patrols, there may not be up to 5,000 people who live there, but he knows everything that goes on there. Those are the things we need to begin to look at. Okay, we have to strengthen this issue of community policing. I don't know whether it is still possible for the National Assembly to push through this state police issue. For the reasons of their selfish ends, politicians over time have refused to ramp up on state police issue. Okay, but it's here now. It's here now. If you have state police, it could be a lot better to monitor what goes on in the locality and then do something better, something more effective about these agitators. Because what I expect is that the DSS should have these agitators within range using humans, healings. These things are available to them. Electronic intelligence, human intelligence, okay? And they begin to watch them. They know their movement. They should be able to anticipate them. They are not ghosts, They are spokesmen, We know where they are more in preponderance. We know where they are more. The DSS should be there. They should look ahead. In fact, the police, when I used to be, I'm still a young man, when I used to be much younger, used to have a B or D department. Okay, it's not all these things CID that everybody knows. He's going, he's a policeman. SID, they know him. Those times we had some policemen you would do not know they work for the police. And they gather, my God, information. Okay, these are the things we need to bring back in place to ensure that we need to know who these people are, what they are doing. Once we can do that, we make it difficult for them to actuate their plans. But that's not what's happening. What we have is a reactive intelligence outfit. They have to be proactive to make these elections doable.
I know if we ask you to go on and on this, and like you will definitely dissect it. But before I let you go, apart from what you just said about National Assembly pushing the community policing and to make sure it becomes law, what other roles do you think the National Assembly can do to make sure that even this election that we're talking about goes smooth and sailing?
Well, part of the duty of the National Assembly is oversight functions on instruments and agencies of state. One of the instruments and agencies of state is the National Intelligence Agency, which does intelligence that have to do with Nigeria, outside the shores of Nigeria, and the Department of State Security, which is the commonly known DSS, SSS. Okay? Now, the National Assembly Committee on Intelligence should be seriously busy now, regularly engaging Bichi, the DG of the DSS, and whoever handles NIA presently. They should be regularly talking to them. Okay? What's going on? What are you doing about these agitators? How many of them do you know? What do you think their plans are? They should be more hands-on than they have been previously with these security agencies. Okay, and the police, of course, so that they can put them on their toes. Tell me, information is key, intelligence. Once they have intelligence about what these people are doing, they can take the wind out of their sails and then make them less effective in disrupting the elections. They are not eating the fact that they want to disrupt the elections.
All right, Barrister, it's always a nice time when I talk with you on any topical issue, and I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you very much. Today. What we try to give back society.
Yes, on Nations today to discuss INEC and its sphere, especially on security. All right, that's how far we're going to go on Nations today on Osbc TV. Join us same time next week when we bring another wonderful, important personality to dissect any current issue that is burning in Nigeria. My name still remains David Ojo. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
I see my people, my people.